The Legend of Jigong, Chapter 113.
We begin basically in media res, smack in the middle of absolute chaos.
Pure chaos.
Yeah. There is a Taoist master named Chu Daoyun. He holds this rather lofty title of the Divine Boy.
Very fancy.
Right. Very fancy. And right now, the Divine Boy is sprinting for his life down a dirt road, just being chased, swarmed, and brutally beaten by a mob of over 20 furious, completely ordinary villagers.
Just regular people.
Just regular farmers.
Yeah.
He is taking hits from all sides. He is totally disoriented, and he has absolutely no idea why this is happening.
So to understand this chaotic opening, we really have to look at the architecture of the setup.
Right.
Like, why would 20 peasant farmers and local merchants dare to physically assault a powerful armed Taoist?
It makes no sense on paper.
Exactly. But the source material gives us the backstory, and it is just a masterclass in behavioral manipulation.
It really is.
Because shortly before this chase began, Jigong, our ragged protagonist, had just been sitting quietly in a local tea house.
And we should definitely pause here to set the scene of a classical tea house, right? Because it's not just a place to get a drink.
Oh, no.
It is the information hub of the village. It is the community forum, the local news station, and the town square all rolled into one.
Right, exactly. It's an environment primed for the rapid dissemination of information.
Yeah.
So Jigong observes this relaxed, captive audience drinking their tea, and he just decides to casually drop a conversational hand grenade right into the room.
Boom.
He tells the crowd that there's a Taoist standing just outside the village borders. And this Taoist, he claims, is using a sword to cast a magical fog over their homes.
Right. But I really want to zero in on the specific details of the lie Jigong tells here. Because it's not just some generic, oh, he's doing evil magic claim.
No, it's very precise.
Jigong weaves a highly targeted narrative. He tells the tea house patrons that this fog is going to cause a horrific disease to ravage their entire community.
Right.
And the absolute kicker, he claims the Taoist is doing this deliberately so that when everyone gets sick, he can swoop in and extort 3,000 pieces of silver from the village to provide the so-called cure.
What's fascinating here is that specificity is the absolute genius of the move.
Totally.
Jigong doesn't challenge Shu Daiyuan to a magical duel. He completely outsources the violence.
Yeah.
By planting this very specific rumor, he bypasses the crowd's critical thinking and taps directly into the brain's amygdala, right? The center of fear and survival.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second because I want to explore that mechanism. Why does the crowd believe a random beggar monk instantly? Like, why don't they ask for any kind of proof?
Right, well, because the threat Jigong invents hits the two most universally terrifying vulnerabilities for an agrarian society.
Which are?
A sudden, unstoppable plague and catastrophic financial ruin.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
3,000 silver is an unimaginable sum for these people. It represents generational debt, starvation, literally the total collapse of their lives.
So the stakes are as high as they can possibly be.
Exactly. When a threat feels that existentially massive, the human brain often just short-circuits the demand for evidence.
Right, there's no time to fact-check when your life is on the line.
Precisely. The urgency completely overrides the skepticism. So he takes a peaceful, gossiping crowd and, with just a few sentences, militarizes them into a reactionary strike force.
Thinking about how that translates to today, Jigong is operating exactly like the most sophisticated, malicious internet troll you could possibly imagine.
Oh, 100%.
Like, put yourself in the shoes of someone scrolling a local community forum, right? If someone posts, hey, a guy in a blue truck is driving around looking at houses, you might just ignore it.
Sure, it's weird, but whatever.
But if someone posts the guy in a blue truck is releasing a toxic chemical into the neighborhood water supply, and the water company is going to charge us all $50,000 to filter it.
Oh, people are going to run out of their houses immediately.
Exactly. Looking for a blue truck with pitchforks.
That is a perfect analogy.
Mm-hmm.
Jigong completely understands the algorithmic nature of human outrage.
Yeah.
He drops the inflammatory, perfectly tailored piece of fake news, and then he literally just steps back into the shadows to watch the real-world chaos unfold.
It doesn't even have to lift a finger.
Right. The villagers don't form a committee to investigate the meteorological properties of the fog.
No.
They don't look for independent verification. They rush out, they see a man in Taoist robes with a sword, exactly as described, and confirmation bias just locks in immediately.
They're just like, there he is, the guy trying to kill us and steal our money.
Precisely. To the mob, Chu Daiyuan isn't even a person anymore. He is the avatar of their impending doom.
Right.
So they attack him with whatever they have. Jigong turns the villagers' own primal fears into his opening salvo.
And meanwhile, poor Chu Daiwan is just getting absolutely pummeled.
Just wrecked.
He's screaming that they have the wrong guy, shouting that he's from the Iron Ox Ridge, that he's looking for a monk, that he doesn't even know any disease spells.
He's so confused.
And it takes a massive effort for him to finally convince them to stop hitting him. But the real question is, where is the architect of all this?
Right. Where is Jigong?
Where is Jigong while his enemy is getting beaten in the street? Well, the crowd eventually realizes the ragged monk has slipped away. He has quietly relocated next door to deal with a man named Tian Irai.
Now, the introduction of Tian Irai is where Jigong's strategy really shifts from generalized chaos to highly targeted surgical humiliation.
Yeah, it gets dark.
Because the source text is very clear that Tian Irai is not just eccentric, he's suffering from a severe, violent madness.
Right.
He attacks people on sight. He is so inherently dangerous that his own family has been forced to lock him inside an empty room at the back of the property, secured with a heavy iron padlock.
And Jigong, just standing outside this locked door with the crowd gathering behind him, casually announces to a bystander that he happens to be able to cure any madness.
How convenient.
Right. He just needs them to unlock the door and take him to the patient.
Which is, of course, a deeply, deeply suspicious proposition.
Oh, the whole scene is just dripping with ulterior motives. So Jigong demands the padlock be removed, and the absolute fraction of a second that heavy door swings open, the madman bursts out like a wild animal.
Terrifying.
But the narrative draws our attention to a very specific detail here. Madman doesn't attack the family members. He doesn't attack the ordinary villagers who are standing right there. He locks eyes on one person. The freshly arrived Taoist, Chu Daiwan, who has just barely managed to clear his name with the mob.
The physical trajectory of the madman is effectively a heat-seeking missile aimed directly at the Taoist.
He just bypasses everyone, tackles Chu Daiwan to the dirt, and initiates this overwhelming, chaotic physical assault again. He pins the Taoist down, he's kicking him, he's throwing punches, and then, in what has to be one of the most jarring moments of disrespect in this kind of literature, the madman urinates directly on the Taoist's neck.
It is a grotesque violation of personal boundaries and dignity. Like, truly.
I mean, the villagers actually have to scramble to pry this violent, urinating man off the so-called divine boy.
So embarrassing.
And only after this incredibly visceral, disgusting humiliation is entirely complete does Jigong step out from the doorway, laughing, and casually say, "Oh, don't worry, I have a piece of medicine right here that will cure him."
The timing of that quote-unquote cure is the absolute giveaway.
Right.
Because if we look closely at Jigong's methodology here, we have to acknowledge the concept of collateral damage as a deliberate, calculated strategy.
Oh, for sure.
Jigong didn't accidentally release a dangerous man into a crowd. He weaponized a psychiatric crisis.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. Let me push back on this because I want to make sure I'm really understanding the stakes here.
Sure.
If Jigong is supposedly this brilliant tactician, isn't this just, I don't know, cruel?
It looks that way, yeah.
Like having a guy beaten by a mob and then peed on by a severely mentally ill man feels less like high-level strategy and more like pure sadism. Is there an actual, genuine tactical necessity to dragging this Taoist through the literal mud?
Well, what's fascinating here is it definitely looks like cruelty to us, right? But in the context of psychological warfare against a spiritual master, it is absolutely necessary.
Really? How so?
We have to remember what Chu Daiwan represents. He's a Taoist cultivator.
Right.
And in this cultural framework, that means he has spent his entire life trying to elevate himself above the filth, the chaos, and the mundane suffering of the mortal world.
Like reaching a higher plane.
Exactly. Cultivation is all about purity. It's about achieving a state of detached perfection.
So his entire identity is completely wrapped up in being superior to the dirt of everyday life.
Precisely. His ego is built entirely on the foundation of his spiritual cleanliness and his elite status.
Okay, I see where this is going.
Because if Jigong just fought him with magic, even if Jigong won, Chu Daiwan would still feel like a warrior who lost a noble duel.
He'd still have his pride.
His ego would remain totally intact. So by forcing him into the dirtiest, most degrading, most absurdly mortal situation possible, right? Being beaten by illiterate farmers and urinated on by a madman, Jigong violently shatters that foundation.
He breaks the illusion of his superiority.
He forcibly grounds the Taoist.
Yeah.
Before you can defeat an opponent of this level psychologically, you first have to make them feel fundamentally powerless and stripped of their elevated status.
That makes total sense. Like, you can't hack a system that is perfectly sealed.
Right.
You have to create a crack in the armor first. And public, grotesque humiliation is the crowbar Jigong uses to pry that armor open.
It's brutal, but it works.
And this physical degradation is really just phase 1, because immediately after the madman is pulled off him, we transition into phase 2, which is where the true psychological torment begins.
Right. The transition from physical shock to mental destabilization.
Yes. So, Chu Dayuan is livid. The text says his lungs are practically bursting with rage.
He's seeing red.
He is covered in dirt and urine, his dignity is in absolute shreds, and he sees Jigong standing there laughing at him. So Chu just snaps.
Of course he does.
He draws his sword, he chases the ragged monk out of the village, and the pursuit leads them to the grounds of a small, secluded temple.
And the environment completely changes here. We move from the loud, crowded chaos of the village to the quiet isolation of the temple grounds.
It gets eerie.
Very. And the sensory details the text provides in this moment are crucial for understanding how human perception actually works under extreme stress.
Okay, set the scene.
So Chu hears footsteps behind the temple structure. He sneaks around the corner, fully expecting to ambush the monk. But what he sees completely short-circuits his nervous system.
Yeah, he rounds the corner, and standing there is his master, the great Shen Miaoyang.
The big boss.
And the source material goes out of its way to describe this figure with immense reverence, right? The master is wearing a goose yellow Taoist crown. He has a matching, flawless yellow robe. Pristine cloud shoes. He has a face described as being like the ancient autumn moon, a flowing silver beard, and strapped across his back is the legendary Fenguang sword.
It is the absolute pinnacle of untouchable spiritual authority.
So put yourself in Chu Doyuan's mind in that split second.
Oh, it must be overwhelming.
His brain is flooded with adrenaline and cortisol from the chase. He has just survived the deepest humiliation of his entire life. His worldview has been violently disrupted.
He's completely vulnerable.
And suddenly, standing before him is the ultimate symbol of order, safety, and paternal protection. His master.
It's literally an anchor in the storm.
Exactly. So Chu reacts exactly how his years of conditioning dictate. He instantly drops his sword, he falls to his knees, he kowtows, pressing his forehead right into the dirt.
Total submission.
He says, "Master, your disciple pays his respects." But the master doesn't say a single word.
Nothing.
He just stands there, perfectly still, staring out. Chu is confused, but he's obedient, right? So he kowtows again.
And again.
Still nothing. Total silence. And the more he bows, the more silent and imposing the master seems. Chu starts to panic. Like, why is his master ignoring him? Has he done something wrong?
He is projecting all of his insecurity and trauma right onto this silent figure. And that is exactly the moment Jigong chooses to drop the illusion.
It is such a brutal reveal. Jigong just strolls out from the side of the temple looking completely relaxed and starts openly mocking the kneeling Taoist.
He just twists the knife.
He says, "Is this the level of your spiritual cultivation? You just kowtowed 100 times to a chicken egg nest. Tomorrow I'll give you a duck egg nest and you can kowtowed 200 times.
And when Chu blinks and looks again, the majestic figure of his master with the silver beard and the yellow robes is completely gone.
Replaced by actual trash.
Yeah.
The text says it's just a thin reed, like a flimsy stalk of a plant, propping up a discarded empty chicken egg nest.
This is the moment the psychological trap snaps shut.
Yeah.
We really have to analyze the mechanics of what just happened here.
Let's do it.
Because Jigong didn't just trick Chu's eyes. He hacked into Chu's deepest cultural conditioning.
Okay, I see the trick, but let's pause and really look at the choice of objects here.
Okay.
Because Jigong could have made the illusion out of a boulder or a tree or even just thin air, right? Why an egg nest?
It's a great question.
It feels so incredibly petty. It's agricultural debris. It's literal garbage. Is the entire point just to make the guy feel stupid?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it goes much deeper than just feeling stupid. In the cultural context of this world, the master-disciple relationship is the most sacred bond a person can have outside of their immediate parents.
Right.
And in many ways, it actually supersedes even that. Your master is your teacher, your moral compass, your direct lineage to the divine.
But everything.
You owe them absolute, unquestioning reverence. Your identity as a cultivator is entirely dependent on your relationship with your master.
Right? It's the core pillar of his entire existence.
Exactly. So, by tricking Chu into pouring all of his sacred devotion, his desperate need for comfort, and his deepest respect into a piece of garbage, a discarded egg nest on a stick, Jigong profoundly violates Chu's core values.
Oh, man.
He takes the purest thing in Chu's heart and forcefully associates it with trash. He weaponizes Chu's own sense of respect and turns it into a source of burning, inescapable shame. It essentially tells Chu, your devotion is a joke to me.
Okay, that is devastating. It's not just, hey, I fooled your eyes. It's, I made you profane your own religion.
Exactly.
But what about the second part of Jigong's taunt, the specific threat? Tomorrow I'll give you a duck egg nest.
Right.
Why give the enemy a warning? Why not just leave him confused?
Because the warning is the actual weapon.
Wait, really?
Yes. That sentence is the inception of paranoia. By stating clearly that there will be a duck egg nest tomorrow, Jigong ensures that his attack doesn't end when he walks away.
Oh, wow.
He doesn't just pull off a prank. He actively programs a virus into Chu's mind. He ensures that from this moment forward, Chu will never be able to trust his own senses again.
I want to make sure I'm wrapping my head around this. So Jigong is basically saying, I've proven I can make garbage look like the thing you love most.
Yes.
So for the rest of your life, every time you see something authoritative, every time you think you are safe, you're going to have to wonder if it's just me pulling the strings.
Precisely. And paranoia is a much heavier burden to carry than a physical injury.
Oh, for sure.
The bruises for the villagers, they'll heal. The humiliation of the madman will eventually fade. But once you realize that your fundamental perception of reality can be hijacked so easily, you completely lose your footing in the world.
You can't trust anything.
You enter a state of constant hypervigilance. And hypervigilance is exhausting. It degrades your decision-making.
It burns you out.
Exactly. Eventually, the pressure of that paranoia will force you to make a catastrophic mistake.
Which brings us to the next phase of our journey, right? Where that exact prophecy is fulfilled. And we get to see the devastating real-world cost of this engineered paranoia.
It's tragic, really.
It is. Following this encounter, we track Chu Daiyuan as he retreats. He is deeply, deeply traumatized. He runs to a different temple, the San Qingguan, which is managed by his uncle master, a man named Li Miaoqing.
Right.
So Chu gets there, and he completely shuts down. He refuses to eat. He refuses to speak to anyone. He just goes to a guest room and stews in his own anger and humiliation.
He isolates himself, which, psychologically speaking, is the absolute worst thing you can do when you've just been subjected to a targeted mental attack.
Yeah, worst case scenario.
He is alone in a dark room with the echo of Jigong's mockery just looping in his head. Tomorrow I'll give you a duck egg nest.
Over and over.
He is watering the seed of paranoia.
He is literally doing the work for Jigong. So the next morning the sun comes up. Chu leaves the temple early, determined to find the ragged monk and fight him to the death to reclaim his honor.
He's on a mission.
He walks out onto the street, but he hasn't gone far at all when he sees a figure walking toward him in the morning light.
And who is it?
Goose yellow crown. Impeccable yellow robes, a face like the ancient autumn moon, a flowing silver beard, and the Fenguang sword on his back.
It looks exactly like his master, Shen Miaoliang.
And this is where we see the malware execute its final command. Because of the virus Jigong installed the day before, Chu Daiyuan no longer sees his beloved master.
He sees the threat.
Exactly. His brain immediately jumps to the worst-case scenario. He remembers the humiliation. He remembers the taunt. He instantly assumes, this is it. This is the duck egg nest illusion.
The trap springs.
And all of that pent-up rage from the beating, the urine, the mockery, it just explodes. He goes absolutely feral.
Just loses it.
He screams at the top of his lungs, "You duck egg nest! Do you think I don't recognize you?"
Oh, wow.
He draws his sword and he lunges forward, fully intending to hack his own master to pieces in the street.
It's a moment of profound, almost Shakespearean tragic irony. Because, as the source text makes explicitly clear to us, this isn't an illusion.
No.
It is, in fact, the real Shen Miaoliang.
The actual living master. Let's just pause and appreciate the absolute shock this must be for Shen Miaoliang.
I can't even imagine.
Imagine you are taking a morning stroll to visit your colleague, and suddenly your own disciple, a young man you have trained and nurtured, sprints at you, screaming incomprehensible nonsense about poultry, and tries to murder you.
Right, it makes zero sense from his perspective.
The master is utterly bewildered. He has to react on pure instinct. He casts a high-level immobilization spell just to freeze Chu in place before the blade connects.
Quick reflexes.
Yeah, he draws his own sword and is literally seconds away from executing his student for the ultimate taboo of betrayal.
Which is completely justified in that context.
Entirely. It is only because Chu, paralyzed and terrified, manages to blurt out the story of the previous day's humiliation that the master slowly pieces together what has happened and lowers his weapon.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because this sequence perfectly illustrates the ultimate danger of a compromised perspective.
Yeah.
When your mind is entirely consumed by the fear of being tricked, you become a lethal threat to your own allies.
Completely.
Think about the sheer economy of Jigong's strategy here.
You know, I was actually just thinking of a way to map this onto modern life because it feels remarkably familiar to me.
Oh yeah, like what?
The best analogy I can think of for Jigong's strategy is a highly sophisticated multi-stage phishing scam.
Oh, that's a good one.
Let's walk through how those actually work, right? Stage one.
Mhm.
You get an email that looks exactly like it's from your bank. It says your account is compromised. You panic, you click the link, you type in your password, and boom, they steal $100.
And in that moment, you feel an intense wave of vulnerability and foolishness.
Yeah.
You realize your defenses were completely inadequate.
Exactly. You feel stupid. That's the chicken egg nest. But the really brilliant malicious hackers don't stop there. The true damage is psychological.
Right.
The next day, you are hyper-paranoid. You don't trust any digital communication. So when your actual bank calls you on the phone to warn you about the fraudulent activity, what do?
You hang up on them.
You assume it's the hackers again.
Yeah.
You scream at the poor bank teller, you refuse to confirm your identity, you hang up on them, and you effectively lock yourself out of your own financial lifeline.
You sabotage yourself.
The hacker doesn't need to steal your money a second time. Your own paranoia does the damage for them.
That is a brilliant translation of the text's mechanics. Because Jigong didn't need to cast a second illusion. He expended absolutely zero magical energy on day 2.
Nothing at all.
He didn't have to be anywhere near the temple. He just needed to make Chu believe there was an illusion waiting for him.
The trap ran purely on the Daoists' damaged psyche. Terrifying when you think about it.
It really is.
On day 1, Jigong outsourced the physical violence to the tea house mob and the madman. On day 2, he outsourced the magical combat to the Daoists themselves. He got a master and a student to draw lethal weapons on each other without even being in the same zip code.
It is a profound manipulation of energy. In martial arts and cultivation, efficiency is key. Jigong is achieving maximum destructive impact with minimum personal expenditure.
Which begs a massive, massive question. We now have the real master, Shen Miaoliang, standing in the street realizing his student has been psychologically tortured by a beggar monk.
Right.
The narrative lens shifts focus from the student to the master. Why is Shen Miaoliang even here?
That's the million-dollar question.
Why did he travel to this specific village on this specific day? And the answer to that question reveals what is perhaps the most brilliant, devastating exploitation in the entire story. It exposes a massive hidden vulnerability in this seemingly perfect, untouchable master.
The source text peels back the curtain here and provides us with Shen Miaoliang's dark secret.
Oh, it's so good.
Despite the pristine yellow robes, the flowing silver beard, and the imposing aura of holy authority, Shen Miaoliang is fundamentally morally compromised.
He's a fraud, kind of.
We learned that some time ago he had gone out into the wider world on a fundraising mission to build a new temple. And through his reputation, he managed to collect 1,000 pieces of silver from donors.
We mentioned earlier that 3,000 silver was an unimaginable sum that could ruin a village. So 1,000 silver is still a massive, life-changing fortune.
Oh, a monumental sum of wealth. And in order to secure those donations from the faithful, Shen Miaoliang had to prove his integrity. He swore a formal binding oath to heaven.
High stakes.
Very. He stood before the divine and promised that he would not misuse a single copper coin of that sacred money for his personal gain. And to seal the oath, he declared that if he broke his word, he invited the heavens to strike him down with lightning.
A classic high-stakes divine vow. You put your literal life on the line to guarantee your honesty.
Yes, but the text reveals the fatal flaw in his armor. He broke the vow.
Of course he did.
The temptation of that much wealth was just too great. He secretly embezzled and spent over 200 taels of that sacred silver on himself.
Wow.
And ever since that moment, he has been living in a state of absolute paralyzing terror of impending divine retribution.
Just waiting for the hammer to drop.
Exactly. He is terrified of the sky. He flinches at the sound of thunder. He traveled to this specific village today to secretly borrow money from his colleague, Li Miaoqing, in a desperate attempt to cover up his deficit before the heavens notice the missing funds.
If we look at this through a modern lens, he is exactly like a corrupt CEO who has been quietly siphoning money from the company pension fund.
Perfectly said.
He looks great in a suit, he projects total confidence in board meetings, but internally he has an ulcer, he's barely sleeping, and he's terrified every time the phone rings because he thinks it's the federal auditors calling.
Yes.
He is desperately trying to cook the books before the hammer falls.
That internal state of terror is crucial to understand. He is carrying an immense, invisible burden of guilt. And guilt is not just a passing emotion. It is a heavy cognitive load.
It takes up space in your brain.
It occupies your mental bandwidth. It makes you constantly scan your environment for threats that relate to your secret.
And as we are about to see, Jigong knows exactly how to weaponize that specific guilt, because while Shen Miaolang and Li Miaoqing are talking inside the safety of the temple compound, a sudden noise shatters the quiet.
Right.
Someone standing outside the temple gates starts screaming their names. The two masters rush the gate, and standing there in the dirt is a man.
It's just a random guy.
Just a guy. And this man points a finger directly at Shen Miaolang's face and, in a booming voice, accurately and in terrifying detail, lays out his exact crime.
He airs it all out.
He shouts, "You raised the money, you swore the oath, you embezzled over 200 taels, and I am a divine entity sent by heaven to brighten the thunder and strike you down."
I want you to truly try and imagine the psychological impact of that single moment for Shen Miaolang.
It must feel like a heart attack.
For months, maybe years, he has believed his secret was perfectly contained. He thought no mortal could possibly know about the missing silver.
Right.
In his classical spiritual framework, if a stranger suddenly appears and loudly declares your deepest, darkest, unspoken sin with perfect accuracy, there is only one logical conclusion.
They're a god.
That stranger must be omniscient, and if they're omniscient, they must be divine.
The logic is inescapable to him, and we see the result instantly. The powerful master, the man who just froze his student with a high-level spell, the man with the legendary glowing sword, completely and utterly collapses.
Folds like a cheap tent.
Exactly. He doesn't draw his weapon. He doesn't cast a protective shield. His knees literally buckle. He falls to the ground, presses his face into the dirt, and begins desperately kowtowing and begging this deity for mercy, sobbing that he will find a way to pay the money back.
This raises an important question, right? His internal guilt completely bypasses all of his external magical defenses. A fortress with 10-foot thick walls is useless if the man holding the keys unlocks the gate from the inside out of sheer panic.
Exactly. But the tension of this dramatic breakdown just snaps instantly into pure, absurd comedy.
Oh, the tonal shift is incredible.
Because the so-called deity looks down at this groveling, sobbing master, bursts into loud laughter, and just drops the act entirely.
Just gives it up.
He says, "Hey, what are you doing? Don't you recognize me? I'm Lao Wu. I sell tofu down in the village square."
It is a stunning, almost whiplash-inducing deflation of tension.
Lao Wu happily explains to the bewildered masters that he isn't a god of thunder at all. He says that a ragged beggar monk approached him on the street, handed him 500 copper cash, and told him to stand at the temple gate and shout those exact words.
Just incredible.
Now, I have to pause and look at the sheer economics of what just happened.
Okay, let's break it down.
Wait, so Jigong spent 500 copper cash. To put that in perspective, that is literal pocket change.
Yeah, it's nothing.
It's the price of a couple of cheap meals. He used pocket change to completely emotionally devastate a powerful Taoist who was dealing in thousands of silver taels.
Yes.
It's the ultimate asymmetric investment.
It raises a profound question about the nature of power and information in this text. Because the financial exchange, the 500 cash, is laughable. But the informational exchange is devastating.
How did he know?
Exactly. How did Jigong know about the silver measure? The text implies that Jigong possesses a profound, almost terrifyingly omniscient insight into the moral failings of everyone around him.
It's spooky.
He doesn't look at a person and see their magical power level. He looks at them and sees their sins, their shame, their hidden cracks.
He has like X-ray vision for hypocrisy.
Yes. And because he could see those cracks, his methodology requires almost no physical effort. Jigong didn't need to spend years mastering weather magic to summon a real lightning storm to defeat Shen Miaoliang.
No need for that.
He didn't need to overpower the master's glowing sword with a better sword. He just needed to find a local merchant who wanted to make a quick buck and hand him the script that pressed the master's guilt button.
It's so efficient.
Shen Miaolang defeated himself. When your conscience is compromised, you do 90% of your enemy's work for them. You build the trap, you set the spring, and you wait in terror for someone to hand you the bait.
It's an incredible breakdown of human fragility. Jigong turns a humble tofu seller into an instrument of divine terror simply by providing the right data.
Right.
But of course, there are consequences to pushing someone this far, right? This absolute bottomless humiliation. The master realizing he just cried and kneeled in the dirt to a man who sells bean curd, realizing he has been played like a fiddle by this ragged monk. It finally pushes the conflict past the point of psychological tricks.
The snapback.
Shen Miaolang's ego can't take any more mental damage. It forces the situation into actual physical, magical combat.
This is where we see the geometric escalation of the fight. The psychological tension literally demands a physical release.
Right. Jigong finally steps out of the shadows and strolls up in person. He's not hiding behind rumors or madmen or tofu sellers anymore, and he looks exactly like what he is. A beggar dressed in tattered, filthy clothes.
Just a complete mess.
Seeing him standing there, Shen Miaolang is pushed beyond rage into pure, murderous intent. The deception, public shame, the fear, it all boils over. He draws the legendary Fenguang sword, and his explicit intent is to butcher the monk right there in the street.
Now, for a reader or listener accustomed to the genre, this is the moment we finally expect the traditional magical duel to commence.
Finally, the boss fight.
The trickery is over, the weapons are out, and it's time for a display of high-level martial prowess. But once again, Jigong aggressively subverts the expectation of the form.
He just refuses to play the game by their rules. Jigong doesn't draw a hidden weapon. He doesn't start chanting a counterspell. As the master attacks with lethal force, the source text tells us that Jigong relies entirely on immense, almost cartoonish physical agility.
Right, he's just dodging.
He dodges the glowing blade, he slips around the Taoist strikes, but he doesn't just evade, he actively mocks the master through physical contact.
Which is infuriating.
While he's dodging, he reaches out and playfully pinches the furious Taoist.
That pain.
He pokes him in the ribs, he prods him. He is treating a lethal, high-stakes sword fight like a child's game of tag.
We have to unpack why that physical response is so devastating.
Yeah.
In martial arts philosophy, a duel is a matter of profound respect.
Okay, right.
If you fight an opponent and they cut you or strike you down, you have lost, sure, but you retain your dignity as a warrior. You were defeated by superior skill.
It's honorable.
But if your opponent refuses to strike you and instead pinches you while avoiding all your attacks, they are communicating a complete lack of respect for your lethality.
Oh, wait.
They are saying, you are so far beneath me that I am not even going to treat you as a threat.
Basically saying I'm fighting a toddler.
Exactly. It reduces a grandmaster to a flailing child. The pinch is a psychological attack disguised as a physical one. It tells Shen Miaolang that all his decades of cultivation and sword training are entirely useless.
And that realization pushes the Taoist entirely past his breaking point.
He snaps.
Realizing he cannot land a single conventional blow on this giggling monk, Shen Miaolang decides to drop a nuclear bomb on a mosquito. He relies on heavy, high-cost magic.
He brings out the big guns.
He begins to chant a complex spell. He summons a localized violent whirlwind, steps into the eye of it, and uses the energy to create a perfect clone of himself. Suddenly, there are two identical Shen Miaolangs, both wielding glowing swords, attacking the monk.
The cloning technique is a classic demonstration of high-level cultivation in these narratives. It requires immense spiritual energy.
But it still doesn't work. Jigong just laughs, dodges the two swords, and brings back his favorite joke. He points at the clones and says, "Wow, you laid an egg without even building a nest."
You just won't let it go.
The utter disrespect. So the master, blinded by rage, clones again. The 2 become 4, the 4 become 8, the 8 become 16, and finally, 32 identical Taoist masters, all armed with glowing swords, form a massive circle and completely surround the ragged monk.
If we look at the physics and geometry of this moment, it is a visual representation of the Taoist's total loss of control.
Yeah.
He is expending an exponential, exhausting amount of magical energy to solve a problem that magic clearly cannot solve. He's trying to smother a fire by throwing his own ego onto it.
You know, when I read this part, the only analogy that made sense to me was fighting a video game boss.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about it. You're playing a game, you're fighting the final boss, and for the first two phases, the boss uses targeted, precise attacks. But you've memorized their patterns and you keep dodging them. The boss's AI gets frustrated.
Right, it can't hit you.
So in the final desperate phase, the boss just panics and starts spamming their ultimate screen-clearing move.
Laser beams everywhere.
Suddenly, the entire screen is just filled with lasers and explosions, total absolute overkill, just trying to land one single hit on a player who keeps rolling out of the way. So what does this all mean? Jigong's joke perfectly undermines the dramatic tension of the cloning magic. It makes the Grandmaster look desperate, not intimidating.
It is the definition of desperation. But we must also acknowledge that while it is desperate, it is highly effective in terms of overwhelming physical force.
That's true.
32 armed combatants enclosing one unarmed man creates an unavoidable mathematical problem. There are no more gaps to slip through. The math is finally turned against Jigong.
That's a really great point. He can't pinch his way out of a solid wall of 32 swords swinging at him simultaneously. He is genuinely cornered.
He's stuck.
So the audience is on the edge of their seat. What is Jigong's grand ultimate counterspell? What profound, earth-shattering magic does he unleash to defeat an army of grandmasters?
Everyone's waiting for the twist.
He bends down. He grabs a literal handful of loose dirt from the ground. He throws it in their general direction as a distraction, turns around, and simply runs away as fast as his legs can carry him.
Just bolts.
He literally just sprints for his life, leaving the bewildered Taoist to recall his 32 clones and desperately try to give chase.
This moment is absolutely crucial for understanding the core philosophy of Jigong's character. We're really conditioned to want the hero to stand their ground.
We want the big clash.
We want them to prove their superiority in a definitive clash of power. But Jigong is not an invincible, overpowered deity concerned with proving a point of honor. He has absolutely zero ego when it comes to the physical parameters of a fight.
He is incredibly, almost aggressively pragmatic.
He is the ultimate pragmatist. When the tactical situation becomes mathematically unfavorable, he doesn't stay to die for his pride. He uses the most mundane elemental substance available, literal dirt, to disrupt a highly complex, ethereal, magical working.
It's so funny.
His ego isn't tied to winning a traditional duel. His goal was disruption, and he has already achieved it. He won the psychological war the moment the master cried in front of the tofu seller.
Right. The fight was already over.
Sticking around to get stabbed by 32 frustrated clones serves no tactical purpose. He uses the mundane to escape the magical.
I just love the visual of that. The sky is glowing with magic, swords are flashing, and the protagonist just throws some pocket sand and books it down the dirt road. It is so wonderfully grounded.
It's brilliant.
So escaping the mob of clone Taoists, we trace Jigong's rapid retreat to a nearby village tavern. And this perfectly illustrates that a trickster's work is never, ever truly finished.
We see that the cycle of disruption is totally continuous.
Yes. Jigong runs into the village and heads straight up to the second floor of a busy restaurant. Now, keep in mind, he has just outrun a literal army of magical clones.
Right, he's probably exhausted.
He is probably covered in sweat, completely out of breath, and his clothes are a mess. He gets upstairs, and as he catches his breath, he spots a brand new character sitting alone at a table. It's a Taoist named Zeng Xuanxiu, hailing from the Xuanzhen Temple in Daibi Fort.
The author's description of this new Taoist is very deliberate, and it serves as a stark contrast to the chaos we just witnessed.
It really is night and day. Zeng Xuanxiu is sitting quietly. He is entirely minding his own business. He looks incredibly proper and well-kept.
Very put together.
He's wearing a crisp blue satin robe, immaculate white cloud boots, and he has a very neat, perfectly tied parcel resting on his table. He is the absolute picture of order, discipline, and quiet cultivation.
He is the exact opposite of the chaotic, dirt-throwing, ragged monk who just sprinted up the stairs. And to Jigong, that perfect presentation of order is an irresistible target.
You're like a red cape to a bull. So Jigong walks over and initiates a very polite but highly loaded interaction. He asks Zeng if he can share the nearby space.
Which is innocent enough.
Right. The Taoist, being a disciplined man, is perfectly polite in return. But as the waiter comes over to wipe down the table and pour the tea, the source text gives us a direct glimpse into Jigong's internal monologue.
And what's he thinking?
His eyes are darting around the room, taking in the neat parcel and the clean boots, and the narrative explicitly tells us that Jigong's brain is already firing on all cylinders, forming a brand new scheme to play a trick on this completely unsuspecting, polite stranger.